Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. So we're going to have a part one and part two today. As usual, we're going to have part one on this channel and part two on my new channel. So if you haven't joined my new channel, make sure you join. The links are in the description, guys. So as usual, part one, we're going to talk about all of the latest news for today. And part two, we will go and have an in-depth discussion about any topic really, any topic, and it's going to be mainly educational stuff, high IQ stuff. So make sure you join that channel and join in the discussions. Today's discussion, we're going to talk about Hawaii and the Marshall Islands, how United States basically took over those islands in Hawaii and Marshall Islands, and basically did the G side on those places, and how they use the people and how they use the land and turn it into military outposts. So we'll talk about that and how it compares to modern day G sites, what you're seeing in Palestine, basically. So yeah, it's an in-depth discussion, guys. Make sure you join it. Every day we'll have a new discussion topic. And tomorrow we'll have something about China. We'll talk about the universities in China and how they are growing and competing with the West. So that's going to be our discussion for tomorrow. So anyway, guys, going back to all of the latest news today, there's a lot to cover. So let's start. So we'll start with the G7. So the G7 is in France at the moment. And before I talk about the G7, I want to kind of show you some images. There's a lot of stuff I've seen in the Indian media that Trump has been ignoring Modi. So it is true, Modi was ignored. And let's kind of look at the video in the beginning. And you can see like Modi initially going up to President Trump, and he's getting completely ignored. And you can see Modi there. He's not even near Trump. He tries to go near Trump. And all the other leaders are pretty much just talking and going around. Modi's stuck with von der Leyen, as you can see. And everyone's gathered around President Trump, and Modi doesn't get a chance to even greet him or say hello. So now it comes to the group photo, and the group photo is even funnier, guys. It's even funny. So if you notice the Japanese Prime Minister, she's right at the back yet again. Every single G7, guys, every single G7 I've seen, every single G7, the Japanese Prime Minister always stands at the back, always. Even though, in the G7, the Japanese are the second largest economy, and they always stand at the back. I don't know what kind of mentality this is. It's like a loser mentality. When you go to school and all the losers usually sit at the back of the class. They're the ones that are disruptive and stuff like that. So I don't know what kind of mindset a lot of these Japanese have. They are obviously in this white club. The G7 should be called the GW7, the Great White Club, guys, because it seems to me that all the white leaders, they all know each other, hang around with each other. They uh, they pretty much look down on everyone else. They look down on Modi. They look down on the Japanese. They look down on every other leader that's not white. And that's what it seems like to me. And everybody knows that the G7 is pretty much useless. If you compare the G7 with the rest of the world is pretty much doing better than the G7. You know, China alone has a GDP probably bigger than in terms of PPP. They probably have a PPP GDP higher than all of these countries combined, except America, that is, and probably India. But everyone else, all of these countries combined probably won't be able to come near China. So you got China as a superpower who's not there. You got Russia is also a superpower, it's not there. and you have other major superpowers like Brazil coming up, and obviously Iran as well. Iran is becoming a superpower. They are not there as well. Um, Again, this G7 club is mainly a white club, guys. And they pretty much come up with stuff in this G7 is useless, absolutely useless. For example, last time the G7 was held in UK, Boris Johnson was there, and they came up with this alternative to the Belt and Road. I don't know if you guys remember. It was the alternative to the Belt and Road, and they came up with it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, this is our alternative to the Belt and Road, and this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do as a trade route to match the Belt and Road initiative from China. We're gonna compete with China." But this was like 5, 6 years ago when Boris Johnson was around. I don't know if you guys remember when I started my channel around then, and I made a video about the G7, and I was making fun out of them, and I was saying where they're going to get the money from to compete with China. Basically, China has spent trillions and trillions on the Belt and Road, and it's decades of work. A lot of planning went into it, a lot of investment has gone into it, a lot of infrastructure has gone into it. So it's been like 5, 6 years now, and nothing, absolutely nothing with that alternative to the Belt and Road, absolutely forgotten about. And that's what they do, guys. It's basically a useless debating society. They sit around a table and they debate, and that's it. And you see all of these countries that have been invited, like Modi, like there's a president of Egypt there, Sisi, and all these other fringe countries that are there. None of them are invited to sit at the table as part of the G7. So this is the picture of an old G7 when it was being held in UK, and you can see Boris Johnson at the front. Sorry about the low quality picture, guys. This is from the internet. Can't find anything better. But you can just about make out the Japanese Prime Minister at the back, the short, small guy. And he's short and small, but they still put him at the back. And all of these Western leaders are obviously taller than him, so he won't be even be seen, to be honest. And it's like a humiliation for the Japanese. Every single time they go for the G7, they are always standing at the back, always, guys. So I don't know if they get put there or they stand there by themselves because they feel inferior to the rest. I don't know. Or is it like a mental thing to me? Either way, the G7 have no respect for anyone else. So this is the real G7. You can see the picture here. The real G7. So you got Japan there, you got Italy there, Mark Carney, Canada. You got Zelensky sitting there. So funny. Zelensky's there. Zelensky's not even part of Europe. So you got Macron, you got President Trump, you got Ostama, and uh, and you got obviously von der Leyen. I don't know who that is, but you don't see any Modi there. If you notice, no Modi and no CC, nobody else. It's basically the real G7. So everybody else in this picture are just there for photo ops. I mean, Modi's just there just to go take some pictures. He's not involved in any talks, any kinds of important discussions. He's just there as a photo op. So it's quite funny to see Modi being completely ignored in this picture by President Trump. However, there has been a meeting between Modi and Trump since then, and that meeting has been even more embarrassing for Modi. And I think this is something that is probably arranged beforehand. This meeting, because in these G7 meetings, all these leaders they kind of have slots to meet each other for a short time and speak to the reporters. Well, I'll get to that shortly, guys. But yeah, it's very, very, very embarrassing for the Japanese, for even Modi. But again, guys, Japan is supposed to be the second largest economy in the G7. They're not given any sort of respect whatsoever, any sort of respect at all. And what is the point of the G7? I just don't see the point, guys. They're just debating society, and probably most of the time they talk about Ukraine because Zelensky's there. So Zelensky's there to obviously hijack the G7, and they're probably just talking about Ukraine most of the time. And President Trump is just sitting there, just taking it all. So let's go through some of the highlights of the G7. President Trump had said a lot of interesting things in this G7. Number one, he acknowledged that Netanyahu and Israel have been indiscriminately bombing not only Palestine but Lebanon. And President Trump, for the first time, has criticized Israel. He says, Bibi, I say you can do a little softer touch, Bibi. You don't have to knock down a building every time somebody walks into it. That's from Hezbollah. I think you could do better. With respect to Hezbollah, I'm not saying they shouldn't protect themselves. I'm saying when two drones are shot into the desert and dropped harmlessly, you don't have to knock down buildings in Beirut. So, for the first time, a US president is publicly criticizing Israel. I don't remember Biden saying anything like this. And I think that there is some sort of rift going on between America and Israel. You cannot deny it, but even if Congress and Senate and Trump, most of them are pretty much bought by Israel, right? But you cannot deny there is a huge rift going on in the United States. People are waking up. You just have to go to Twitter, and all these people that were die-hard Zionists, die-hard pro-Israeli supporters all these years suddenly have changed. They're changing tunes. They're changing direction. And now everyone seems to be hating on Israel. Literally everyone. They don't really have much support left. So I think what Trump is doing is I think he's realizing that he's not a popular figure in the United States. And I think the big wake up call happened when he went to Madison Square Garden to watch NBA match, and he got absolutely booed by everyone. Everyone in there booed him, and you can see, President Trump was clearly really upset about it. Because President Trump, he's a narcissist, right? And narcissists love to be the center of attention. They love to be loved. And I think President Trump realizes that being so far up Israel's is not going to get you much love. He might get you money from Israeli lobby, or he might give you money from Israel, but in terms of people loving you, you're not the people's president. You're basically taking money from Israel and to push a narrative. So I think President Trump realizes that. And I think also coming to the G7, he's got some kind of freedom as well. Because in the United States, when he does his speeches in Washington and when he does his speeches, you know, in the United States, he has all his handlers with him. And nearly everyone in his administration are pro-Israeli Zionists. So he has to be careful what he says around them, And in America, I think he's very limited and he's very stuck in what he says, what he does. I think because he feels G7, he's got a bit of freedom because he hasn't brought all his administration with him. He only brought a few guys here and there, and obviously the security. And I think he feels like he's got a lot more freedom to say whatever he wants to say. And also, he realizes the Europeans are not very happy with Israel either. Because don't forget, this summit is in France, and France has got a huge responsibility in Lebanon, right? They have a huge number of troops in Lebanon, and a lot of people in Lebanon speak French. Because it used to be a French colony a long time ago. And yeah, so France feels that they have a responsibility to look after the peace in Lebanon, and Israel is basically not only disrespecting United States by bombing Lebanon and Beirut, they're also disrespecting France and let alone Europe. So I'm sure that President Macron said a few words to President Trump about it, and I think this is why he spoke out. But yeah, this is a real big shock to Israel, and I think to the rest of the world. I think this is the first time a U.S. sitting president has criticized Israel like this. It's never happened before, guys. And he also admitted something else as well. He also admitted that the UAE has been dropping bombs on Iran. Surprise, surprise. So all these explosions and bombs that were hitting UAE, they were not only just American planes, but they were also obviously Israeli planes, but also planes and missiles coming from UAE. So I'm pretty sure Iran knows this already, and I'm pretty sure that Iran will not forget. Even if there's a peace deal, I think Iran will not forget the treachery that the UAE has done, and I'm sure there's a plan for UAE in the future. I'm not saying another war, but I think Iran will play the long game. With this agreement, Iran will get stronger. They will become a superpower of the region. Right now, they are what you would say a military superpower, but economically, they're not there yet. But with this deal, they can be an economic superpower as well. So if Iran rises within the next 10, 20 years, I'm sure there are going to be plans to, not have wars with their neighbors, but they will kind of push for color revolutions and things like that around, especially around Dubai, because Dubai is really corrupt, guys. These guys are pure Zio puppets, and Iran will not forget, the treachery of some of these Gulf Arabs, and not only UAE, but people running Bahrain. They're all traitors, guys, and even Qatar as well. Qatar was in on it. Kuwait was in on it. So these guys are all traitors, and I'm sure Iran has some sort of plan for them in the future. Not now, but I think Iran will play the long game and wait and see how things go. It could be that the people topple these governments anyway. That could happen as well because as American influence leaves the region, I think the people will eventually stand up and take back their countries. But let's move on, guys. Oh, yeah, this is a funny clip. I don't know if you guys have seen this clip. So this is Trump holding Macron's husband, and he was just basically walking. Look at this funny. He, he, Trump thought Trump thought it was Melania by his side or something. He literally grabbing his hand and walking off with him. So funny. I just, I just burst out laughing. He just tried to like walk off with Macron's husband, and obviously Macron was just standing there thinking, "Oi, where are you taking my husband? Come back!" Just walking with him. I just found that hilarious, guys. So in this clip, he walks in. He walks in late, by the way. You know, everybody's already sitting down. They're having the meeting, and Trump just walks in late. He probably had a good sleep. Caught up on his sleep. Because he doesn't want to turn up to the meeting and fall asleep. So obviously he probably had his good sleep in the hotel. So he turns up late and he says, "I'm the boss," and he sits down. He taps Keir Starmer on the shoulder and he just sits down. It just shows that he thinks he's still the boss. He still runs these puppets. And yeah, I don't think there's any strong leaders in the G7 who are there to basically you know challenge Trump in any way. I think Meloni might do it. Meloni is quite strong as an Italian leader. Um, I don't know if the Spain leader was not invited by the looks of it, but yeah, I think the Italian leader Meloni is the only person that will probably be able to stick up or stand up to Trump. But everyone else are just a bunch of cowardly puppets, guys. So the G7, you know, normally it's all about the G7. But again, Donald Trump has completely hijacked it and made it all about himself. And he's been saying some ridiculous statements during this G7, and all of it's laughable, guys. All of it's laughable. You can literally make a channel and talk about Donald Trump all day, but I don't want to do that. So this is another highlight. Somebody asked him why did he stop the war and stuff like that. Why are you giving 300 billion to Iran? So he said that the reason he's doing it because you know America would have run out of reserves in 4 weeks, and he had no choice, and the world would have gone into a depression. But if you go back to his previous statements, March 9th, he says, we are totally independent of the Middle East. We don't need their oil. April the 1st, it really doesn't affect us. We have so much oil. We have tremendous oil and gas, much more than we need. And by June 17th, he says, oh, we're about to run out of reserves. So again, it shows that before they went into the war with Iran, they had not thought about any of these things. And I think initially, when Trump went in, he thought he had plenty of oil. He thought America was independent, and if the Middle East goes up into flames, it wouldn't really affect the US. Well, they'll be selling oil because they are the largest producer and largest seller to the world. However, they don't realize that most of the oil that America produces, they cannot use it. They cannot use it in their industry. They cannot use it in their cars and things like that. So they have to import a lot of the oil from Saudi Arabia and the Middle East because it's a different type of oil. And the refineries that are set up in all over United States are to refine that oil from that comes from Saudi Arabia. And also, because of capitalism, what most of the companies tend to do in America, because the price of oil is so high, what they do is they focus on selling that oil abroad to other countries because that's how they make all the profits. And they cannot make the same profits if they try and sell it, cheaper to American refineries and petrol stations and things like that. So they are victims of their own success, to be honest. And end of the day, oil barons, they're only going to look after themselves. They don't really care about the American public. And this is why the American pumps are getting more and more expensive. You would think that American pumps would be cheaper because America is the largest producer of oil and largest seller, but no, it's just going up and up and up. So in the end of the day, it's the people that pay for it, and it's the oil barons that make all the money. So let's look at some other great stories from from the G7. Another statement that President Trump made was when he had a meeting with Modi. He said, "Modi is the most beautiful looking man, and he looks so nice." He said he looks like an angel. That's what he said, guys. I'm not joking. He goes, "Modi looks like an angel. He looks so nice. He's the most beautiful man I've ever seen." Oh, I can't believe it. Can't believe he said that. And you see Modi here coming up to Trump and greeting him. Obviously, Trump's been ignoring him all day, but Modi decided to be the bigger man and say hello. So let's talk a little bit about Modi, guys. I don't know what these pure Indian nationalists think of Modi. So Trump or United States killed three Indian sailors, like took them out. There's been no apology from United States. There was a press conference, and one of the reporters asked Trump about, why did he kill three Indian sailors? And Trump just brushed him off and said, next question. So he didn't even answer it. He just brushed him off. And there's been no apology from the American side. There's been no official condemnation from Modi. Modi's been completely silent, like a puppet. And it's just funny to see, guys. It's absolutely hilarious because if you think about it, remember when China fought with India in the Galwan over the border issues, and a few Indians died, fighting hand to hand with the Chinese. One thing you do not do is fight hand to hand with with the Chinese, because they will. We're talking about martial arts masters versus Indians who are not martial arts masters. Let's just put it that way. So there's only going to be one winner, and so a few Indian soldiers died, right? And Modi went absolutely crazy. He went absolutely crazy. He was going online. He was on all the news channels saying, "We will not stand for this." They killed our Indian soldiers. So what did Modi do? He banned all Chinese apps, all of them. He banned every single Chinese apps, including TikTok. He banned all these investments of China going into India. So he made life very, very difficult for Chinese businesses. He was raiding offices of Chinese businesses in India, like the phone company Xiaomi. They literally raided the company, and they fined Xiaomi a year's worth of pay. So so Xiaomi made 1 year worth of money from India, and India just charged them a whole year's fees. In terms of the fine, court fine. And all the money they made for the whole year went to pay India for the fine. So they made life very, very difficult for Chinese companies in India. And all the media all across India were like, "Oh, anti-China this, anti-China that." News channels like WION, you have Palki Sharma, being totally anti-Chinese rhetoric, spreading fake news and stuff like that. And anti-China rhetoric was at an all-time high in India, guys, all because a few Indian soldiers died. So fast forward to 2026, when America kills Indian soldiers, and what happens? Total silence. Total silence from Modi. Total silence from the government. Yeah, Jay Shankar may have sent a tweet out saying, "Oh, we condemn this, we condemn this." Just one tweet. That's it. Have they banned any American apps? No. Have they banned any American companies from trading in India? No. No, they will not do such things to their white masters, will they? Their white colonized masters, they will never do anything to hurt them. They will never say anything against their white masters. So if there's any Indians listening to the channel right now, you guys are supposed to be nationalists, right? So is this what you call nationalism, when your Indian soldiers get killed or your Indian people get killed by America and you basically do nothing? Is this nationalism, or is this like cowardice? What is it, guys? I just want to know, guys. I mean, is this superpower behavior? Is this how superpowers behave? When another country kills your people and you do nothing, you say nothing. Is that what superpowers do? I mean, you guys were selling, India was a superpower for years. Years we've been hearing it all over the, social media, all over the media. All the Indians were like, "Yeah, we are a superpower. We are a superpower." Well, prove it. Is this really superpower behavior? I'm just asking. I'm asking for a friend. If there's any Indians listening to this channel right now, please come and explain to me if this is superpower behavior, and why is Modi silent when your own Indians are getting killed, and why is it different from if China kills your Indian soldiers compared to what if America does it? What's the difference? The difference is because you look down on China. That's why it's pure racism. This is exactly like the caste system in India. Is one rule to people you look down to, and one rule to people you look up to. If there's any Indians listening to the channel right now, if you can give me a very good explanation on why, then I will close the channel. If I like your answer. But seriously, guys, just think about it. I mean, Modi's here shaking hands with Trump, smiling, pretending like nothing's happened, pretending like his Trump is his best friend. When Trump just literally killed 3 soldiers, did not apologize, and Modi's here, laughing and joking with Trump. Is this really what Indian nationalism is all about? Is all about? Is this why you guys voted BJP as nationalists? You guys really need to look at yourself, guys. Seriously. So I'm not finished yet with Japan, guys. I'm really not finished with Japan. So I had a right go at India. But here is a Japanese prime minister sitting all by herself. And you know what? You know when I said earlier that Japan is given no respect at the G7 because they're not part of the white club, right? So you have more proof here. You have the Japanese prime minister sitting by herself. She's rocking her chair while all the white leaders are basically talking amongst themselves and having their own meetings and completely left her out. I will play this clip and you will see she's just sitting there all by herself, rocking her chair, while all the white leaders are just there, having a joke, having a laugh, talking amongst each other. It just shows that they have no respect at all for Japan, for India, or for any non-white country. Let me show you. And you can see it's so funny. Literally, she's just look. All the seats are empty, guys. All the seats are empty, and there she is, just rocking her chair. The funniest thing I've ever seen. Seriously. Oh my god. Oh my god. Seriously, this is a joke. Absolute joke, guys. So Trump has been absolutely destroyed at a press conference as well because he mentioned that Iran is allowed to have long range weapons. So before the war, he said Iran's not allowed to have any ballistic weapons. We're going to destroy all of their ballistic missile capabilities. And then right now at the G7, suddenly he says, oh, Iran can have long range ballistic missiles because all their surrounding countries have them. So they're allowed to have them. And and a reporter basically came out of the crowd, and the reporter quoted one of Donald Trump's old posts from 2020, and Donald Trump was like, "Who said that quote?" And the reporter said, "It was you, sir. Donald Trump made that quote." And he's like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, it's just funny how things turn around 180. One day he's like unconditional surrender. Next day, a few months later, it's the United States who's having the unconditional surrender to Iran. And all of these rules and regulations they put on Iran, saying they cannot have long range ballistic missiles, they cannot have nuclear program, they cannot do this, they need to open the strait, all of these things that they said Iran cannot do, suddenly he's capitulating to everything. And he says the reason he's doing it is because the United States running out of reserves and the world is going to go into depression. So he says there's no choice. But he should have thought of that before going into war with Iran. All of this stuff, he should have thought about it. But he didn't think about it because he doesn't think. He just jumps into these things without thinking. Or he doesn't have enough people around him who tell him the truth. I don't think anyone in his administration tells him the truth. Everyone just tells him what they want to, what he wants to hear, and that's it. And that's the problem. There's nobody that has the balls to stand up to Trump by the looks of it. Everyone's just his puppets. The news is coming thick and fast, guys. I believe that they were planned to sign this deal on Friday, but it looks like President Trump has signed it before, and I think they've signed it today. Or the American side have signed it. I'm not sure if the Iranian side have signed it. So why the rush? I think it's because of Israel. I think they probably had some sort of intelligence that Israel was planning something on Friday to ruin the signing. So they may probably moved it forward. That's my, you know, that's what I think anyway. That's my thinking. Anyway, let's move on from here, guys. Let's talk about Iran. So Ghalibaf, basically, he made some comments today. He says, he's Iran's parliament speaker, by the way. He says the relationship with China can no longer be a customer and vendor. He calls for a true partnership across technology, economics, and politics. The US fought a war to isolate Iran. Iran answered by binding itself tighter to the second largest economy on the earth. I think it's the largest, to be honest. Iran is setting itself to make sure the sanctions can never hurt them again. So this is a very, very good statement coming out of Iran, because Iran has always been a proud nation, and they have always been focused on the West rather than China. Because a lot of Iranians still believe that they are Western, more Western, or they have more links to the Western world than to China. And obviously, as you know, Iran is very, very Islamic, and China is not Islamic. So and I think that's one of the reasons why they haven't detached themselves to China over the last 5,000 years or so. So, but things are changing. I think they are realizing that having links to China can only be great for your country. I mean, look at Russia. Russia has been able to withstand all the sanctions from the EU and America because they have linked themselves to China. And there's nothing that China cannot do. They can provide Iran with everything that they need. They can provide Iran with semiconductors, the Western countries cannot sell to Iran. They can provide Iran with satellites, with databases, with computers, with servers, with networks, with internet, with phones, whatever you need, guys, with 5G, 6G, you name it. They want fast semiconductors, China can give that. You know, China can give everything that Iran needs, everything. Raw materials for medicine, tunnel boring machines for infrastructure, whatever they need, guys. China has been spending years and years and years to be self-reliant, so they do not, you know, rely on any Western technology. So China can obviously provide all of that to Iran and also help Iran militarily as well. And Iran has seen how great Pakistan's military is when they fought against India. They shot down, how many jets were there? Six, seven, eight? You know, they gave such a hiding to India that India had to run to Trump to beg him to stop the war. And this is why, Trump has no respect for India anymore. Because, person like Trump, he loves strength. He loves countries that fight back. And this is why Trump, respects Iran. This is why Trump respects Yemen, because he knows these countries stand up to America and Israel, and they do not stand up to bullies. And, Trump respects that. And, the only country that stood up against Trump in the tariff war was China. All the other countries capitulated. Every single country in the world capitulated. It was only China that stood up to, Trump. When Trump put the sanctions up, China matched it, if you guys remember. Trump kept putting their sanctions up. He said, all right, 25%, 50%, 75%, 100%, 125%. China matched it at every opportunity until it went to such a high amount that both countries stopped trading with each other. And it was America that was losing because they couldn't have any raw materials from China, no rare earths. And Trump does these things, he doesn't think about doing things without, he doesn't think before he says anything or does anything. It's only afterwards he reacts. He does something and then he reacts. He thinks, "Oh God, what the hell have I done?" And he tries to fix it afterwards, but it's too late. The damage is done. So Trump respects strength, and when India, completely failed to militarily destroy Pakistan, they lost all respect in the world. And I think Trump woke up. He woke up to the fact that India has been scamming the world and scamming America all these years. They have been selling a dream to America that they are the next superpower and to the world as well. They said they're going to outmatch China, they're going to beat China's GDP by 2027. All these stories were coming out on the Western papers, guys. You're welcome to they're all over the internet. You can just go to the Google and just type in when India will become the next superpower, when India will overcome China's GDP, when India will beat China. All of these, just type it. You will see hundreds and thousands of articles from all sorts of papers, and even on YouTube, people were jumping the bandwagon. So basically, they oversold India and they undersold China because everywhere you look, everybody was saying that China's going to collapse. You had Gordon Chang selling China collapse stories. All across, all the social media was saying China's going to collapse in 10 days, 5 days. You have all the media who is anti-Chinese. They were taking up all these China collapse stories like it's some sort of gospel in the Bible. They were all running with it, guys, all of them. And I think America thought that China's going to collapse, and slowly, and they just ignored China. And they went into the Middle East thinking, oh, there's never going to be a country that will match us or overcome us. The last country tried to do that was Japan, and we took them down. China's no threat; they're going to collapse anytime soon. So let's spend all this money in the Middle East, go to all these wars, and we'll still be a superpower, nothing to worry about. And then what happened? From under their noses, China's become, I wouldn't even say the second largest global superpower. I would say the number one, because you can't trust these GDP figures, guys. You just have to look at China and look at America and compare the two countries, and you can see who is the real superpower and who is not. So yeah, I think Iran's making the right decision. If they go, link more of their systems, open up their economies to China, they have everything they need. They don't have to worry about Western sanctions anymore. And once Iran becomes a superpower of its own economically, all this stuff will be. You will see the West basically begging for Iran for contracts. They will come with, once Iran has shown the world they are a military superpower, but once Iran basically becomes an economic superpower, then you will see the West basically begging Iran for, to open up. Literally, they will be coming to Iran every single week, like they're coming to China every single week. And Iran is on the right road because of the sanctions, they have been able to build all of these missile factories and underground missile systems and technology and hypersonics. You know, they were able to do that by themselves. And when you are under heavy sanctions, as a country, you have no choice but to do it by yourself. So that's why Iran has a huge advantage over the Gulf countries, because the Gulf countries just buy the goods. They just buy American weapons. They buy all the factories, AI factories. They don't own any of it. They just pay for it. But, you know, America still owns the technology and the rights. So the Gulf have been using the money for the wrong purposes, but Iran has been slowly building their own, you know, economy, their own factories, their own technologies, learning how to do it themselves, not relying on any other countries. This is what China has done, and this is also what the Soviets did as well. So yeah, I completely support this notion that Iran should, you know, become a true partner with China. Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget, I'll be posting part 2 on my new channel as well. So make sure you check that out. Take care for now. Bye bye.